Watch someone who is actually confident, not loud, not arrogant, just quietly sure of themselves. You'll notice something strange. They explain almost nothing, not their choices, not their silence, not why they left the room, or why they said no, or why they didn't respond to a message for 2 days. Most people over-explain because they're afraid of being misunderstood. Confident people have made peace with being misunderstood sometimes. Here are 5 things they never explain, and why letting go of the habit changes everything. A confident person makes a choice and moves on. They don't build a case for it. They don't rehearse the justification in case someone asks. If someone questions it, they might explain, once, briefly, and then they stop. Most people do the opposite. They explain a decision before anyone even asks, because they're really asking permission, not giving information. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you have power over your mind, not outside events. A decision doesn't need outside approval to be valid. It only needs to be yours. Confident people can sit in a room and say nothing, and it doesn't bother them. Most people feel silence because it feels like evidence they're paying attention, or being polite, or proving they belong in the conversation. Confident people know silence doesn't require an alibi. Seneca wrote that we are often more afraid of what we ourselves might say than of what others might say to us. A confident person would rather say nothing than say something just to fill the space. Most people say no, and then spend the next 2 minutes softening it, justifying it, apologizing for it. A confident person says no and lets it stand. No further paragraph. No proof they had a good reason. Epictetus taught that some things are up to us and some things are not. What you choose to do with your own time is entirely up to you, and it requires no defense. The moment you start defending a no, you've quietly turned it into a maybe. Confident people don't hand out their history to justify who they are now. They don't explain the mistake, the failure, the version of themselves from 5 years ago, unless they choose to, on their own terms, not because they're hiding it, because it doesn't need to be submitted as evidence for who they are today. Marcus Aurelius spent his private hours writing about becoming a better man, not defending the man he used to be. Growth doesn't require a public trial. This is the biggest one. Most people, when they feel disrespected or overlooked, want to explain their own value, list their achievements, remind everyone what they bring to the table. A confident person has already settled that question with themselves. They don't need the room to agree. Seneca wrote that true power is knowing when to speak and when to remain quiet. The person who never has to explain their worth is usually the person who is most sure of it. None of this means confident people are cold or distant or above explaining themselves to people who matter. It means they've stopped explaining themselves to everyone else, out of habit, out of fear, out of the need to be understood by people who are never going to understand anyway. If this describes someone you know or someone you're trying to become, write the word confidence in the comments. And if you want to build that same quiet certainty, one reflection at a time, download Becoming Stoic. It's free on the App Store. Subscribe for more. And remember, the people who explain the least are usually the ones who are most sure of themselves.